We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash that like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and your friends if you want to support this college football rebel outpost for sickos like you. If you want to support it through a donation, hit the $sign where you make a comment, and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody, and I mean everybody, into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls later in the show. And I promise we're going to get to your phone calls a lot earlier on today's show, Wednesday, April 9th. We had quite the monologue yesterday. We're going to shorten it up today. And I'm going to give people the opportunity to call. Of course, when you call, you can talk about anything in college football that you desire. When you put in the super chat, we talk about what you put in the super chat. But I'm going to give people the opportunity to call in and talk about what we talked yesterday on our live show. We put the stake in the ground. I felt comfortable enough to say where we believe things are heading in the next conference realignment. There's a lot of variables out there, right? There's the world economy, the United States economy, the media market, the commissioners themselves. Is there going to be a change? change in presidents. A lot of variables out there. But I've talked to enough people. I felt very comfortable in talking about what we talked about yesterday. I have got no problems putting it out there. Other people have put out what they have heard, and I've kind of agreed and disagreed. Well, this is a time for me to put it out what PATC believes. And we've gotten a lot of feedback, a lot of it positive. I mean, most of you disagreed with what I said, but you've done it in a very positive way. You said, Greg, I disagree because of A, B, C, and D. There's a lot of smart people out there. A lot of smart people out there, especially in the PATC family, who disagreed where we at PATC believe this is all heading. And for a lot of your arguments, I really don't have a good counter argument. I don't. Remember, I'm not the brightest bulb in the refrigerator. I just happen to know where every refrigerator is in every place that I go to, right? But on the other hand, I believe it was time to put it out there. For you all to let it marinate, come back to me, agree, disagree. It's all out in the open. I thought it was important. Look, we have done that with other big stories out there, and we've been fortunate enough to nail most of them. And I remember all the comments that was said when we broke these other stories. So I get it. There is a bunch of stuff that people disagree with. It's not just one item. A lot of people believe that Florida State is going to the Big Ten. They're not going to the SEC. They're not going to have any relationship with ESPN. ESPN doesn't like the Seminoles. Great, Greg, haven't you heard Kirk Herbstreit? Haven't you heard Paul Feinbaum? Don't you understand? Greg, your cheese have slipped off your cracker. Don't you in the things that Paul Feinbaum gets correct? Great, don't you understand? Don't you understand that it's the Big Ten that benefits more from a Florida State than the SEC? I get all that. But again, we had to deliver what we believe is where all this is heading. We did not say what we said yesterday lightly. I did not take it lightly. I did not just put that out there. I've had hours of discussions with many people. BTM and his associates. The chatter behind the curtain. So there was multiple things that many people disagreed with our take yesterday. And I think that's outstanding. It gives us a lot to talk about. People disagreed with the Florida State going to the SEC instead of the Big Ten. People disagreed. Miami to the Big Ten, that ain't going to happen, Greg. That ain't going to happen. Miami has no value. But the biggest one is, Greg, you're falling for it again. Notre Dame is not going to go to the Big Ten. Notre Dame is very happy where they are. Notre Dame just went to the championship game. My God. Notre Dame just How much money did they bring in for the college football playoffs? Notre Dame is sitting in the catbird seat. Notre Dame is not affected by this economic consolidation that is going on. Notre Dame stands alone. They've been saying no to the Big Ten for decades, Greg. For decades. This is the most controversial part of what we talked about yesterday. So we are going to tackle the most controversial part of what we discussed yesterday. And if you missed the live show yesterday, shame on you, but you are forgiven. You are forgiven. If you missed it, please go back and watch it. In our live show yesterday, we made the decision to explain where we think this is all heading. Number one, we believe here at Peek Around the Corner that the next move that the Southeastern Conference makes will be transformative. It will transform. It will change their conference once again. The last move the SEC made when it comes to conference expansion was Texas and Oklahoma. Holy smokes. We believe that the SEC is gonna do it again. As we head towards the 2030s, as people are talking about super leagues and private capital coming on in, the SEC has acquired so much power, so much value. They're not going to give any of that up. I'm sorry. This is why we are the most unpopular college football YouTube channel in the country. Because for whatever reason, I'm not afraid to have everybody mad at me. The SEC is the most powerful, most influential, most valuable conference in the country. They've accumulated more chips. They're playing them right now. They're not going back. They're not going to go backwards. They have accumulated more power in governance. They're not going backwards. Yeah, it was just a 1 year data point when it comes to college basketball, but the SEC is not going backwards in basketball. They're not going backwards in governance. They're not going backwards in dictating what the college football playoffs is going to look like. The SEC is not going backwards. So this is where now we're going to get back to all of this in the back end of the monologue. And the monologue is going to be pretty short, so we're going to get to this pretty quick. Notre Dame, everything I said about the SEC, Notre Dame knows this. Notre Dame is doing all they can to fight against this. Notre Dame is doing all they can not to have those two solar systems being created where everybody rotates around them. That's how Jack Swarbrick described the SEC in the Big Ten. Jack Swarbrick of Notre Dame, the longtime former athletic director, within 6 months after he left the Notre Dame Fighting Irish Athletic Directors Department, the office in which he held for decades, He helped build Project Rudy. Project Rudy, the 72-team Super League. The Project Rudy that would create 3 tiers of media distribution. And by the way, Notre Dame would be the first tier. They'd possibly be a permanent 8 big brand part of that media payout. And holy smokes, Notre Dame would not have to worry about anything ever again. That whole 72-team Super League, that was the counteraction to what the SEC and the Big Ten are heading towards. Notre Dame expects, demands top tier money. And they should. They're one of the top 6 brands in the country. You can argue one of the top 3 brands in the country. They're not going backwards. They're not going to go backwards. They're not going to settle for less. Notre Dame is always going to put themselves in a position to compete at the highest level of college football, and if they can, the other sports. There are so many examples. Notre Dame took their men's hockey program out of the Hockey East into the Big Ten. Do you know why they did that? Do you know why they did that? Because of competition. They did not want their men's hockey program to have to go and take an airplane trip on every road series during the season while the other Hockey East schools took buses. They didn't want that. They did not want that little part where they're traveling on an airplane and everyone is taking the bus. Made Jack Swarbrick and Notre Dame and the boosters and everybody else said, this ain't going to work for us any longer, brother. We're moving to the Big Ten. Just that little bit of difference in competition for their men's hockey program moved them out of the Hockey East into the Big Ten. Before we go on with our other stories, and then we're going to go back to Notre Dame's calculations going forward. And I'm going to ask you this question now, and you're going to have time to come back and answer the question with your comments, your super chats, and your phone calls. But I'm going to ask you this again. And I'm going to ask you this again. The ACC, without their top brands, when Florida State, Clemson leaves, when North Carolina leaves, the scheduling agreement between Notre Dame and the ACC goes poof into the night. When the SEC goes to 9 conference games, if they get that scheduling agreement with the Big Ten, how in the hell is Notre Dame supposed to keep their media value up to the point where they want to compete at the highest level? How does Notre Dame achieve that? Because remember, Notre Dame wants top dollar for their content, as they should. But as a standalone independent football program, we all know it is more valuable when you bundle content together. There's so many examples of that throughout sport franchise, through sport leagues and college, but Notre Dame has been able to do it alone so far. Notre Dame wanted, that scheduling agreement, that new scheduling agreement. And don't you think the ACC schools know that? Notre Dame got a scheduling agreement where they're playing Clemson every year, 2 out of 3 years, Florida State and Miami. That helped those 3 programs when it comes to their viewership metrics on equal revenue sharing in ACC, and it helped Notre Dame. It helped Notre Dame to satisfy NBC. Notre Dame needed it. And what if that all goes away? Where does Notre Dame go next? You know, people have been talking about how NBC is not quite satisfied with the Big Ten media package because there's not enough big brand teams that will play night games on NBC in some particular parts of the year. Fox gets most of the number 1 picks. NBC is not quite satisfied with the Big Ten media deal. What do you think the NBC is going to think about Notre Dame's schedule if they lose Clemson, Florida State, and Miami? Holy smokes. Right? Wrong? Let me know. But I'm going to end this part right now. We're going to go back into we got a lot to report on. Then we're going to go back to Notre Dame. Notre Dame has said no to the Big Ten for decades. But it isn't like Notre Dame says no, slams the door, laughs at the Big Ten. It isn't like it is a complete shutout. It's not like Notre Dame is saying, hell no, not ever. Notre Dame has been able to get what they've wanted, what they needed from the ACC to keep going with their football independence. Notre Dame has been able to get what they needed. Notre Dame has been able to get the protection from the SEC. They've been able to do it. They've been able to keep going on. But when you've got people out there reporting in public and the chatter behind the curtain that the next wave is going to be the most disruptive wave in realignment, who do you think they're talking about? The most disruptive wave of conference realignment is about to happen. Well, you start with the top domino pieces. I believe we have reported yesterday that the SEC's next move is not going to be just around the margins. If we're wrong, we'll take the L. But we don't think it's going to be just about North Carolina, Virginia. We think they're going to take all 4, Clemson and Florida State. And if that happens, and there's a lot of work to do for that to happen. You got the North Carolina, the Board of Governors, you got Virginia, their whole situation. But if the SEC can accomplish what we believe they want to accomplish, to check all the boxes, to grease all the skids as they head towards a 9th conference game, playing games, a scheduling agreement with the Big Ten, to do all of this, we think those 4 schools is the transformative move that the SEC makes. And if they achieve that, the most powerful conference, the most valuable conference, the most influential conference in the country in which the last time they did the big move, they got Texas and Oklahoma. That rattled everybody. That changed everybody. If they do it again, and we think they're going to do it again, if they do it again and go grab a Virginia, North Carolina, Florida State, and Clemson, do you truly believe that does not affect Notre Dame? Not at all. Not at all. I want you to think about it. Let me know in the comments section how wrong we got it once again. I want to go to the Super Chats. Thank you so much, Preston from Greensboro, North Carolina. Fantastic show yesterday. My naive question is, why wouldn't the SEC, ESPN target Miami over Clemson, keeping the Big Ten out of Florida? That gets back to what we believe. We believe at Peek Around the Corner that the SEC knows what the Big Ten is going to target. They know what Miami wants to do. I would be shocked and flummoxed at this point that has any steam, any reports having Miami and the SEC, any reports on those two coming together. I don't. I really don't see that as a possibility. And I think that is the perception of everybody at the top leadership positions. I think none of this is a done deal, obviously. None of it is. You got a lot of political stuff. There's a lot of hurdles, right? There is stuff, the North Carolina Tar Heels exit ramp from the ACC. There is stuff on that exit ramp that they're going to have to get through. Same with Virginia. Florida State, they've got some stuff. They got to deal with some stuff within the SEC. Clemson, I think Clemson is going to be fine with South Carolina. I think Florida State's going to have a little bit more issues with Florida, Gainesville. But either way, we think this is what it's all heading towards. I don't believe how do I say this? I think the Big Ten, while nothing is a done deal, obviously, I think the Big Ten has got their claws into Miami enough. I think there's been a lot of communication back and forth. We talked about some of the details yesterday. I think Miami knows where the Big Ten stands. I think everybody kind of knows that. So I don't think that's even a possibility for the SEC. But maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out. We'll find out together. Thank you so much for the Super Chat, Preston from Greensboro. Helping us keep the lights on. I do appreciate it. John Grove, Ireland is not ready for Farmageddon. Dublin is going to run out of Guinness. Holy smokes. There is the Iowa State, Kansas State. John Grove, Kansas State, favored by 3.5 over the Cyclones. Excuse me, over and under is 49.5. 49.5. Kansas State, 3.5. No, Greg the Gold. I'm not going to make my picks yet. But yeah, I can understand. They're going to have to bring in extra Guinness into Dublin, Ireland. We're going to be doing a watch party on it. No question about it. Just like we did last year with Florida State and Georgia Tech. That was fun. Thank you, John Grove. I appreciate the super chat very much. Ryan Thomas, Irish independence depends on whether Sankey chooses to work with Petitti or betray him. That is the real cloak and dagger right now. Thank you, Ryan Thomas. Thank you for the super chat. I do appreciate it so very much. Thank you, sir. I think, again, the Big Ten would love North Carolina. We happen to think they're not going to get them. We've been saying this for well over a year, probably 2 years. Now, that could change. We might get some reporting. We'll throw it to you guys as fast as we can, but we think that is the reality. We think the SEC has the inside edge on that. So it's not, I think Petitti, I think the Big Ten, from what we can gather, has their eyes wide open to the situation. And I would be surprised. Maybe I'm being a little bit naive here. I would be surprised that Sankey's next move would shock Petitti. We shall see. Thank you, Ryan Thomas. I do appreciate it so very much. Thank you, sir. Okay. Let's get to a roll call real quick. Lee Go Gators, Ryan Brooks, 4637. Patrick Baylor, Bear Maprov. Jared Jones, K Struthers, AMAC, T-shirt fan. Are we going to do some math today? Not really. I'm not smart enough to do math. I'm going to talk in generalities. I'll let the other YouTube channels put out the spreadsheets and explain it. But I think we'll have a clear understanding on how more difficult it is going to be for the Irish if the economics of consolidation continues, and I think it will. I think it will. Nathan Jones is in the house. Bruce Harris, Kayla Ramirez, A2. Dogs and Dubs, the Oklahoma State Cowboy, MBM, SF All-In, Tiger Fan, Ryan Thomas, Kurt Searcy, Larry Andrick, Mopop, Bob Swanger, the Almighty Finn is in the house. Kenneth Maynard, Al Woody, Movie Time Blues, Cool's Corner. Cool's Corner, people are underestimating the Big Ten's desire for AAU schools. They have a desire for commonality. Big Ten, when they look at an institution, is that a Big Ten institution or not? AAU is shorthand for, yes, it is in some ways it is a Big Ten institution. It doesn't mean they need to have AAU status, that they have to be in the private club. AAU is a private club and they do not hold a veto pen over Big Ten's invitations. But getting back to what Coos Corner mentioned here, the Big Ten presidents supported Miami into AAU. We learned about 3 days ago, we reported it yesterday, partial of it, on why they supported Miami to AAU. Miami does the research that they want. Miami has done a lot of research, faculty acquisitions, the highest people in their fields. The Big Ten has, not just with AAU, but outside of AAU, has flipped Miami over and over again, poked and prodded, and the presidents want them. It doesn't mean they're going to get them. The Big Ten has wanted North Carolina. The Big Ten has wanted North Carolina. The Big Ten has wanted Notre Dame. So, Big Ten doesn't always get what it wants. There's a lot of examples of that. There's not a whole lot of examples of the SEC not getting what they want. And we think the Big Ten wants Miami, the presidents, and we think the SEC is not looking at Miami. So that has led us to a conclusion that we finally had to put a stake in the ground yesterday. We'll find out if we're wrong, and if we are, I will do the biggest L on this show. I'm going to do a big L on Kuz's Corner show and whoever invites me so I can take the L on their show. But we'll see if that happens. We'll see if we take the L. Jeff Morgan, Mr. Mountaineer, is in the house. Marquis Crenshaw is here. Jeff Keyes is here. Numbskull News is in the house. Roman Maroney, Skaven, yes, the Cornhusker. All good, 720. Michael Smith, Charlie Atwood, we are Penn State. We are Penn State. We're going to be talking about Penn State in a moment here. What does Penn State need in the portal? David Kreitzer, Yeechu, Cornelius Jones is in the house. T-shirt, I already did T-shirt fan. Thanks for coming on in. Hawk Alani is here. Expedition Greg, Mr. Buckeye, Cranky Tiger, Stephen Vitt from the MAC Conference Champions, the Ohio Bobcats, Mr. Seminoles, Morris Simmons, Dante's Inferno Purgatory, High Seas is in the house. Hopefully I haven't missed anybody. I apologize if I have. Sean, Healing, Florida, Market Tech, Jimmy. Not a causation, it's a correlation. Good point. Peter Shields, 21 Bucket 21 is in the house. Okay, let's get to it, guys. We got a lot to cover. I want to thank everybody. I want to make sure I have covered the super chats. Thank you, Preston from Greensboro, John Grove, Ryan Thomas. Here we go. Let's get this live show going here. I promised it was going to be a shorter monologue, and here we are, already 24 minutes in. My goodness. Okay. First of all, the Pac-12 media rights. According to Sports Business Journal, Ben Portnoy, the Pac-12 is making progress. They're making progress on a new media rights deal. Now, we've heard this before. Remember back in the day? But, you know, Commissioner Teresa Gould, she's the new leader, the representation from Octagon. They held meetings in San Antonio. The expectation is whatever lengthier package they're going to come up with that is beyond 2026. It will include multiple partners, multiple media partners like the Big Ten, the Big East. It's not going to be one media partner. What kind of value the Pac-12 might gain remains to be seen, but whatever the valuation, it will offer quick feedback to the Mountain West Conference schools that jump ship and whether it has paid off. In other words, Boise State's going to find out, right? They're going to find out if the jump has paid off, at least short term. So again, the Pac-12 is going to need to eventually add an 8th football playing conference member, and the process has been going on for a while. Sports Business Journal, Ben Portnoy says there has been progress made. It is official. Big Ten Media Day schedule is out. Day 1, July 22nd. Illinois, Indiana, Maryland, Nebraska, Ohio State, and Rutgers. Day 2, Minnesota, Northwestern, Oregon, Penn State, Washington, Wisconsin. Day 3, Iowa, Michigan State, Purdue, UCLA, USC. Now, if I called the Big Ten corporate office if I called the Big Ten corporate office, I would hope Tony Petitti would pick up the phone. Pick up the phone, Tony. Pick up the phone. What I would say to Tony is this. It is unwise. It is very unwise to put PJ Fleck and Luke Fickell on the same day during your Big Ten media days. I ain't saying, but I'm saying. Minnesota and Wisconsin on July 23rd. Now the good news is, I do not know if it's good news. I don't know how they're going to, hopefully Fleck and Fickell don't follow each other. You can't have those two guys under the same roof media day. You can't have those two guys together. It's not good. Not good planning by the Big Ten. They do not like each other in the portal. We're going to go through some portal news here. Some serious front loading is going on, Ross Dellinger, as schools maneuver to spend cash before July 1st when compensation falls under the new cap and enforcement entity. So July 1st, remember, if this thing gets approved, this House settlement gets approved, you're going to have July 1st, you're going to have a Deloitte clearinghouse that these NIL deals are going to have to clear. You're going to have the rev share cap. You're going to have an enforcement arm, supposedly. That happened July 1st, so everybody's front loading. They're front loading on the basketball deals. But now they're front loading on the football deals. Remember, this settlement was not approved. Was not approved on April 7th, 2 days ago. And if it isn't approved by the opening of the portal for football, we are going to have fireworks. We are going to have guys going into the portal who really don't even want to leave their team. They just want to see what the market is. The front-loading market before Deloitte, before the rev share cap, before all this stuff starts to happen. The portal is going to be portal on steroids, as we have put in the title of this live show today. College football spring transfer portal preview, the teams, needs, and more. Max Olson, ESPN. The underclassmen players have from April 16th to 25 to make their final decision on whether they're staying put or playing elsewhere. More than 2,100 FBS scholarship players have already entered the portal this offseason. Teams have invested more money than ever before to retain their top players for 25. Here are the 5 things which to watch for when the portal opens. The race to beat this settlement. Right? We talked about this. Front loading. Everybody front loading. Wilkin, the judge, declined to provide final approval of the deal Monday, 2 days ago. If final approval of the settlement is still several weeks away, it's going to impact the spring portal. The clock is ticking for NIL collectives to make one more big spend on player acquisition and retention before they enter the new world where all third-party NIL deals exceeding $600 must be reported, must be fair market value. Again, that is your NIL that's stationed in your athletic department, and that is NIL collectives outside of your athletic department. Every NIL deal over $600 must be submitted to the Deloitte clearinghouse. Texas Tech signed Stanford transfer outside linebacker David Bailey, the top player available ahead of the spring portal window, Friday night. He's already joined the team for spring practice. He's expected to make more than $1 million this season. What are the contenders? What are their needs going into the portal? The Buckeyes, the defensive line. And they've known it. Coach Ryan Day has known it. They lost a lot of guys, man. They lost JT. They lost Sawyer, Williams, Hamilton. They're going to go in the portal. They need to supplement their defensive line. Texas Longhorns, they need another wide receiver. Yeah, they've got Ryan Wingo and DeAndre Moore, but they're sidelined right now with injuries. They went after Eric Singleton, but he went to Auburn. They need to pick up a top flight receiver for Arch Manning, Sarkisian, and the Longhorns offense. Penn State needs to pick up another wide receiver. It's no secret that Penn State is going to be extremely competitive for a starter caliber wide receiver in the spring portal. Just ask athletic director Pat Croft. We all know we need wide receiver help, Penn State. If you are a wide receiver, if you're a top tier guy, maybe, just maybe, you should enter the portal just to see what the Nittany Lions are going to offer you. Georgia, they need an edge rusher. They need an edge rusher in the portal. They also could be in the market for a number 2 running back. There's plenty of confidence in Nate Frazier. As you guys know, last year, I loved the true freshman Nate Frazier last year. I guess he wasn't quite ready to be the cowbell, but I think he's ready this year. Nate Frazier is going to be sensational. The Bulldogs might be looking for a backup running back, and the LSU Tigers looking for a defensive tackle. It's a position of need. Now, again, my beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers, we are in desperate need of defensive tackles in the portal. Desperation. We've got 3 guys that can play Big Ten football at the interior lineman, and then there's a big drop-off. We need help. The Gophers need a miracle out of the portal. And then finally, expect some portal bluffing. And again, I mentioned this earlier. Hundreds of players will enter the portal this spring in search of better opportunities elsewhere, but not all of them are actually trying to transfer. Excuse me. The threat of transferring has been a powerful bargaining chip for players and their agents. I think we'll see the beginning of guys testing the market. One Big Ten staffer predicted. I think we'll see a lot of guys enter and see a lot of guys go back to their original spot after seeing what else is out there. The portal is going to be on steroids. We are going to try to cover it as best we can here at Peek Around the Corner. It's going to be wild. It's going to be crazy. I think there's going to be shockers. I think there's going to be big surprises. Remember, when you come out of spring camp, you kind of know where you sit, right? As a football player. You kind of know where you are a little bit on the depth chart. You know if you've been taking reps with the 1s, the 2s, the 3s. I'm not going to say the person's name. I'm not even going to say the position. But there is a Golden Gopher, highly respected football player that we got in the portal this right after the season was over. And from all appearances in practice, he has not he's not going to be in the spot that he thought he was going to be in. He has dropped big time. He is behind guys really no one would have predicted. So I believe this certain person is going to be in the portal. This is what happens. You transfer, you get into you think you're going to be in this spot, and it doesn't work out. You're going to be going back in the spring portal. The portal for this spring is going to be absolutely nuts, because this is the last one big time to get that big deal before Deloitte Clearinghouse comes into play. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be drama-filled. It's going to be crazy. I cannot wait for it. Okay, here we go. Let's talk about Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish. Again, the Irish calculations. I'm going to go back to what we started with this show, talking about Notre Dame's. The world is going to change once again. I think there's going to be major disruption. On one side, you've got this economic consolidation, economics of consolidation going on. On the other side, Notre Dame is battling that. They don't want that to happen. Remember, Notre Dame, Notre Dame fought for, Notre Dame sponsored the additions of Stanford, California, and SMU. Notre Dame did all they could to keep the ACC together. Notre Dame knew that SMU would come in with no media money, and that money would be filtered throughout the other ACC schools. Stanford taking a cut, California taking a cut. Those three extra schools coming on in made it more difficult for any dissolution theory to happen in the future. Notre Dame supported this move. Clemson did not. Florida State did not. North Carolina did not. Notre Dame has not. They don't. While Jack Swarbrick recognized this consolidation, he even said it in public. There's two solar systems out there, the Big Ten and the SEC, and you're gonna have to choose one or the other. They've been fighting this. They don't want to have to give up their independence. They know if the Big Ten and the SEC ever do break away, and if Notre Dame follows them, they're not going to be independents in that breakaway. Of course they're not. In fact, Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports, reported that when the Big Ten and the SEC were threatening the Big 12, the ACC, saying we need more distribution, we need that distribution model of the playoff revenue to favor us. We need governance to favor us. Remember when the Big Ten and the SEC were threatening all that, or we're going to do the breakaway? Notre Dame, Bavacqua was in those meetings with the Big Ten and the SEC. Notre Dame knows what the Big Ten and the SEC might do if they don't get their governance. They're doing all their power plays. Notre Dame doesn't want that to happen. Notre Dame loves their football independence. There is a great value to that, added value to Notre Dame. But it's getting more and more difficult. And I know this sounds crazy because Notre Dame just went to the championship game. Notre Dame's football team, outstanding. And they are. I love their quarterback they got coming back next year. Angeli, the New Jersey kid. I watched his tape in high school. He's a 3-star recruit, a beautiful recruit by Notre Dame. You saw what he did in the playoffs briefly. Notre Dame football, fantastic. But the point of it is, we believe at Peek Around the Corner, there's going to be another big disruptive move that's going to happen. Florida State, Clemson won a massive victory. They're going to use that massive victory to the benefit of themselves. North Carolina has spent over $600,000 on North Carolina Blue Matter. Carolina Blue Matter. To a law firm looking at conference affiliation. They've already been working this. They've already been gaming this out. We're not saying there's not a lot more work to do. There is. There's a lot more hurdles to overcome. But all these schools are active. We reported that to you yesterday. These schools are all jacked up. They're all trying to get the hell out. If they got an opportunity, if they got a sliver of an opportunity to get out, they're working it. They are absolutely working it now. They're doing it now. They are. And if you're going to need evidence of this, which I don't doubt, just wait. I think just wait until next month, the ACC meetings. I think we're gonna get some reporting, possibly, on all that. So we think the world is going to change once again, and it's going to affect everybody. It's going to affect the Big 12. Brett Yormark is conscious of all this stuff that is going on. He just said in an interview a few days ago, we like what we have, we like the 16, but we think there's going to be possibilities in the future. You bet he does. Notre Dame's calculations. If we are correct, if we are correct here at Peak Run, if we're not correct, then we'll take the big L. But if we are correct, if you're taking North Carolina, if you're taking Miami, forget about Miami for a moment. If you're taking North Carolina, Florida State, and Clemson out of the ACC into the SEC, Notre Dame's NBC media deal, wow. That takes a big blow to their media deal. A big blow. Think about it. Look at the value of the ACC network. Monster blow to the ACC network. Huge impactful blow. So if all this happens, and then you have the SEC going to 9 conference games, having a scheduling deal with the Big Ten, Notre Dame, once in a while, they're going to get a big brand SEC and Big Ten team to play on their schedule, even with the scheduling agreement between the Big Ten and the SEC. But it ain't going to be like it was before. You're not going to have Big Ten schools having 9 conference games and then a game against the SEC opponent and then a game against Notre Dame. That's just not going to happen. Why would it happen? So what is the Notre Dame's options? What is Notre Dame's option if the SEC decides? Greg Sankey keeps saying, look, we're happy with our 16 teams. But you know what? We are the Super League. We're not going to, people are going to get caught up to us. We're not going back. The SEC, with their periscope from Birmingham to Rosemont, Illinois, making sure that the Big Ten doesn't grab something that the SEC doesn't want them to grab. The SEC does not want. The SEC does not want the Big Ten to be doing the Miami, Florida State blend. They don't want that to happen. The SEC presidents do not want to lose North Carolina. I'm telling you, man. I know the PATC family is full of college football sickos like me. I get it. You can show me everything. You can show me everything about North Carolina. You can show me their viewership number. You can do whatever you want. But I'm telling you, the SEC presidents want North Carolina. They're not going to do anything. They want North Carolina. This has been leaked to every single reporter. This has been leaked to us. This has been leaked everywhere. All those reports were accurate. They were not a smoke screen. It wasn't disinformation. So if the SEC is going to 9 games, they're having a scheduling agreement with the Big Ten. They're going to have play-in games. Basically, what the SEC is going to be able to do is negotiate an extended variation of their media deal with the SEC. They're gonna make it work, in our opinion. There's so much more that the SEC is about to do, and that includes expansion. They're going to transform their conference again. And again, I ask all of you, what happens to Notre Dame? What do you think their options are? Their options is scheduling a deal with the SEC? Come on. 20-team SEC with 9 conference games and a scheduling deal with the Big Ten? That's not an option, in my opinion. Let me know if I'm wrong. A scheduling deal with the Big Ten has not been interested in that. It's either you come wholly or you don't come at all. There ain't going to be a scheduling deal with the Big Ten. Notre Dame doesn't have either one of those options. Now, they might have an option with a scheduling deal with the Big 12. And again, this is not a shot at the Big 12, but the Big 12 markets is not where Notre Dame fans are. They were in major parts of the ACC, major parts of the West Coast, major parts of the Midwest, Chicago, of course Indiana, but they're not in where the markets are in the Big 12. Don't think that home schedule is going to work. What is Notre Dame's option? Notre Dame's option is to be the captain of a ACC conference that is mostly occupied by private institutions. You think that's an option? How much money is Notre Dame going to make from that? Remember, Notre Dame, just like Alabama and Ohio State, they're interested in the top dollar. They have to make top dollar. That's why they agreed with the scheduling agreement with the ACC. Notre Dame has to make top dollar. This is why in Rudy Project, Notre Dame is in the top tier of what the Rudy Project, the media distribution to the schools. Jack Swarbrick's got Notre Dame number in the top 8. Whatever happens to Notre Dame, they need to make top dollar. They're really going to make top dollar in a privately led ACC. No, they're not. They're not even going to be close. What is Notre Dame's options? We believe at that point, when the SEC transforms themselves again, that is when we believe that Notre Dame, who's had talks with the Big Ten for decades, that's when we believe that Notre Dame joins the Big Ten Conference. Because what is their other option? I haven't really gotten an answer. I haven't really gotten an answer to that. Now, some people say, well, it ain't going to come to that point, Greg. It's not going to come to that point, Greg. I will say this. As much power as Notre Dame has, as much power, influence that they have, they are a powerful institution. They are an incredibly valuable institution. As much power Notre Dame has, Florida State went to the courts. Clemson went to the courts. They won a massive victory. As powerful as Notre Dame is, North Carolina, Florida State, and Clemson did not agree with ACC expansion. As powerful as Notre Dame is, North Carolina did not agree to sue Florida State and Clemson. As powerful as Notre Dame is, they don't hold the governance power going forward like the SEC and the Big Ten. As powerful as Notre Dame is, they needed the scheduling agreement with the ACC to stay football independence. They needed it. They got it. But without Florida State and Clemson, without Miami, the value is not there anymore. So again, let me know what Notre Dame's options are going forward. These are the new calculations of Notre Dame, and they know it. They know it, man. And Notre Dame has been saying no to the Big Ten for decades. But it's never been no, hell no, it's never going to happen. That's not how it's been going. It's the Big Ten saying, come on, join us. And Notre Dame saying, no, we can still make this work. We can still make this work. And they have been making it work. One last thing, and I'm going to remind everybody of this again, and then we're going to go to your phone calls, super chats, and let me know how wrong we got it once again. But when people talk about, go ahead and Google it. Go ahead and Google it. When people talk about, you've had many people, head coaches, athletic directors, reporters. You've had many people saying the next disruption is going to be big. We don't know what it's going to look like at the end, but it's going to be big. It's going to be the biggest one yet. Well, the biggest one yet is the SEC transforming themselves into a bigger conference, a bigger footprint, going from 16 to 20, implanting themselves, continuing as the most valuable conference in the country, shutting the door down on the Big Ten on a few things that they possibly wanted to do. The SEC major transformation is going, that big disruption, the collapse of the ACC as we know it, is all going to lead to another major disruption, we believe. Notre Dame finally leaving football independence. Let me know what you're thinking. Ryan Willie, I like the SEC. Whoops. Daniel Gorby, I'll get to you in a second, Ryan Willie. I like the SEC Big Ten scheduling agreement. If you don't get in the P2 that you desire, you still get to play teams in the other P2. Daniel Gorby, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the super chat. I do appreciate it so very much. Mr. Seminole, Mr. Evil Badger. When will the networks announce their TV schedule and ruin our Black Friday NFL game watching? Great question. It's going to happen this spring. I do not have the dates. I don't know, but it's going to happen this spring. Great question. I'm going to do some poking and prodding on that. Last year, I was fortunate enough to break the story of Iowa and Minnesota playing on Peacock. So I will go back and see what I can do, see what I can figure out when those are going to be announced, and see if I can get a peek around the corner on some of these games. Thank you, Ryan Willie. Appreciate the super chat so very much. We're going to get to your phone calls right now, as long as I am caught up. I am. The phone number is 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. 1333. The lines are open, and I'm very happy that we could get to the phone calls a lot earlier than we did yesterday. Again, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, smash that like button if you like our content, share the video with your family.
From
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, I think I trust Greg Sankey as much as you trust cheese on a hamburger, Greg.
Yeah, well,
But,
you don't trust it very good then. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think people need to realize, though, that the scheduling agreement between the SEC and Big Ten is the breakaway. That is the breakaway because, like I mentioned before, if they're each playing 9 games, let's just take a Big Ten team playing 4 Big Ten home games and 5 Big Ten road games. They're likely going to host an SEC team. So they'll have 5 games at home and 5 games on the road against P2 talent.
Yep.
They are not going to, I don't ever foresee a world in which any Big Ten or SEC team ever plays less than 7 home games. I don't see it. There's too much gate revenue that goes directly to the universities. And as a result, those 2 other non-conference games are going to be probably most likely home games to guarantee that. And that means that's good news for the MAC. That's good news for the Sun Belt. That's good news for, Conference USA. That's very bad news for the PAC, very bad news for the ACC leftovers, and very bad news for the Big 12. That's just how it is.
Let me jump in. I agree with 95% of that. I do see, there's going to be let's just take BYU, Minnesota, okay? We had a game scheduled between the Cougars and the Gophers, right? But it was COVID that knocked it out.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, so let's pretend that the SEC goes to 20 and the Big Ten goes to 20, and there's a scheduling agreement between the two, and let's say it's the year in which Minnesota plays 4 conference games at home, 5 on the road, but they have that SEC game at home. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that's 5 and 5. So the next 2 games are at home.
Mm-hmm.
There could be 1 game at home against BYU, for example. So but it's what you're saying, and I agree with you, and I'm trying to connect it to Notre Dame, is it's going to be really a lot more, and Ryan Thomas, you're saying a lot better than I ever could, but it's going to be a lot more difficult for the other schools to get a home game of a Big Ten, of an SEC program.
Yep.
And that's what Notre Dame needs for the NBC contract.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is they're not going to Iowa State's likely to tell Iowa to go pound sand if all it is road games to Iowa City.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And very few, like the Big 12, particularly for them, you might see, the Conference USA and the Sun Belt and the MAC are all okay with being walked all over. But I think you're not going to see any ACC leftovers or schools that used to be, at least in the Power 5 level or the BCS level era. They're not going to be doing pay games with these guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where, that's where this really comes down to. And it's where the split is.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but that's what's happening. And I think it makes it very tough for Notre Dame to survive as well as an independent.
Let me add this. Just to piggyback on what you're saying, and you said it a lot better than I did. If you go look at that Rudy project that Jack Swarbrick endorsed, sponsored, pushed, if you go look at the fine writing on that, you'll see that a part of that Rudy project was to have these 70-72 Power 4 conference teams not to play, or maybe a couple others, they will no longer play G5 schools, no longer play FCS schools. That would have been eliminated because Jack Swarbrick, they wanted to make sure that they could fulfill their scheduling, obligations to NBC. They wanted that breather. They wanted to make sure, that was part of the Rudy project too, to cut those out and give them some space to make sure that they can still play the biggest brands. That was part. So it's like these two worlds are colliding.
Yeah.
One of these worlds is going to win. I happen to don't think the Super League world is going to get it done. Some people think it is because there's a lot of money and it's going to blow away whatever these top brands of the SEC wants and the Big Ten. Maybe they're correct. We're going to find out. But these two worlds are colliding. Notre Dame doesn't want the SEC Big Ten world to win. I just happen to think they're going to here in a little bit. But go ahead, sir.
Yeah. I mean, that's how it is. And, I mean, I don't see a G5, ban against G5 games going away with the Big Ten and the SEC because, A, they want the seventh home game. But, B, you know this better than anyone, and people that live in Big Ten country or live in the Midwest know that there are some tight connections between MAC schools and Big Ten schools on a lot of things.
Yeah.
And those pay games are economically important for those schools. And I don't see the Big Ten selling the MAC down the road, down the river, because they get a home game from it and they help their other university, the other in-state universities. It's good for the local economy. I mean, it fosters good relationships and ties with other people, and the MAC schools are willing to pay the pay game.
And we see a lot of that same relationship between the SEC and the Sun Belt. We're seeing a lot of scheduling going on, a lot of checks being sent from SEC to Sun Belt athletic departments to keep them going. Yep. Yeah,
that's the breakaway, and that's unfortunately that's where it is, and that's where it will be. And over time, it may not be this playoff deal, and it may not, but over time, because of the numbers and the advantage and the financial advantage and the talent advantage, they'll continue to be able to grab more and more and more and more of that pie until basically they've boxed everyone out. And I think that's what's happening. It's not good for the sport, but it's what's happening. Yeah. And, I certainly am not happy about it, but that's what it is.
Either.
And
not either.
And I would say people need to understand on the Florida situation, it's like I mentioned the other day, and I said this a billion times. Anyway, I got to drop. But anyway, Greg, I'll let you go. But great show and take care. Have a good day.
Great call,
Bye.
sir. Appreciate it. Ryan said it a lot better than that is. So if you missed it, go back to Ryan's phone call again, because a lot of what he said is what has been told to me in that manner. Short, concise, saying that this, if it had, now none of this has happened yet, right? None of this is official. None of this is done. This could all be wrong, but there are.
Call from
Rick.
Rick, can you hold on for a moment, please?
You bet.
I appreciate it. I'm just saying, guys, none of this is done. It could all be wrong, but there are certain forces. I mean, it's like if like Rick, I know Rick is going to talk about the airplanes. None of them have landed yet. None of them, because the House thing hasn't. We don't even have the traffic control people up in the tower. But anyways, if they land, and people think they're going to land, but they haven't. But if they land, look, you're looking at a world of the SEC going to 9 conference games, having a scheduling agreement with the Big Ten. You're going to have play-in games with these conferences. They're going to get new media deals with their media partners. You're going to have a tighter bowl tie-in between the SEC and the Big Ten. If the SEC brought in Florida State and Clemson, they're going to make more playoff distribution money than the Big Ten. They're going to separate themselves a little bit because of Clemson and Florida State. And by the way, the way we're going to do college football playoff money distribution start in 2026 going forward, it ain't going to be what it was last year. Notre Dame collected all this money. That's not what's going to happen in 26. Notre Dame is slotted in at a certain number that's below the Big Ten and the SEC money. Now, it might kick up a little bit because if you do a look in 2028, Notre Dame has made it to the championship game. But for the next few years, starting 26, 27, 28, Notre Dame is going to make less playoff money than the SEC and the Big Ten. So if you add all this stuff up, if you add the scheduling agreement, Notre Dame's ability to satisfy NBC, it's going to be awfully difficult. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just telling you, it's going to be incredibly difficult. Notre Dame needed that ACC scheduling agreement to make it all work. But if the top brands of the ACC leave to conferences that are having 9 conference games and are going to be scheduling against each other, where is the value for NBC? Rick, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Yeah, Greg, the planes always land. They just don't always land where they're supposed to or how they want to.
Yeah, sometimes they go belly up.
Sometimes they go wheels up. But they always land. About a half an hour ago, you said, well, first of all, I agree, I think, with just about everything you said, and that the real key is the significant loss of revenue that the Irish will incur with the demise of the superpowers in the ACC. I mean, that's plain obvious. That's why the Miamis and the Florida States and the Clemsons are getting paid more money in the unequal revenue sharing. So we know their value is greater than the rest of the league. But about a half an hour ago, you said the Big Ten wants Miami.
Big Ten presidents.
Big Ten presidents want Miami.
Yes, they do.
Miami wants the Big Ten.
Yeah, and I think, and I also will add, I think I'm going to go ahead and say it. The SEC knows that. So
why not jump the gun and take them tonight?
Because the Big Ten wants North Carolina.
But it's inevitable they're not getting them.
Well, but we think they're not getting them, but the Big Ten may not be convinced.
When they're convinced.
Yeah.
When they are convinced.
Great question.
Why not be the first one to strike and take Miami? Because Miami has their bags packed. They've checked in their luggage. And it's for Illinois. And all they need is a green light for takeoff. Why not be the first one?
Great point. There may be another thing about Notre Dame and what does Notre Dame want, and maybe for example, if you do that, if you do take a Miami off the bat, Big Ten, and then the SEC comes in and takes the 4 that we're talking about, and then the Big Ten goes back to Notre Dame and says, or ask, "Are you ready yet?" And Notre Dame says, "Yeah, sure, but we wanted Stanford in that spot instead of Miami." Then the Big Ten's going to have to go back to media partners and say, "Are we going to have enough money to elevate Washington and Oregon to full share, Miami to full share, Stanford to full share?" Maybe that be that
Well,
whole question.
I've got a different scenario of how it could work.
Mm-hmm.
How about they take Miami for number 19 and then go knock on the Seminoles' door, and all of a sudden the SEC is flipping out, and they call up North Carolina and say, "Hey, it's decision time now. The Big Ten is coming after the Seminoles as number 20, and we need you to go now." See how the hand is forced?
Mm-hmm.
And all of this ultimately leads to what the Big Ten really wants: Notre Dame in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking my call.
You got it, Rick. Beautiful call once again, sir. Great call, Rick. Kenneth Maynard, thank you for the super chat. I very much appreciate it. Sorry, I should have got to it earlier. I apologize, Mr. Maynard. North Carolina, Florida State, Clemson are locks to the SEC. The 4th school will be either Virginia, Duke, or North Carolina State. Ask North Carolina's conference rival in their new conference. Plus, North Carolina's got to deal with the Board of Governor. Thank you for the super chat, Kenneth. I think a lot of people would agree with you that it might not be a Virginia lock. Thank you so very much. Appreciate it.
From
Evil Badger.
Evil Badger, can you just hold on for a moment, please?
Yes.
I apologize. Thank you very much, sir. I just want to get some of these comments. Again, thank you, Maynard. I appreciate it. Tony says the Big Ten wants Notre Dame. Everyone else is second fiddle. Expedition Greg says Georgia and Bama will use their power to reject Florida State from the SEC. I would agree that Florida State, they have some work to do. I think they got work to do with Georgia. Yeah, I do agree. I do agree with that. But I think I believe that the old Virginia, North Carolina helps grease the skids of Clemson and Florida State. And Florida State and Clemson helps grease the skids of North Carolina, Virginia to the media partners. I think they help each other. But I understand what Expedition Greg is saying. Grateful Trojans in the house. Go ahead, Evil Badger. Thank you for your patience. The floor is yours.
Hi, Greg. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet, buddy.
I have a bold prediction.
All right.
Everything will happen by August 15th.
Woo.
And the SEC will take the 4 ACC schools, UNC, Virginia, Florida State, and Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Big Ten will take Miami and Notre Dame to go to 20. I don't see how the SEC will ever let Florida State go to the Big Ten. And I know that the Florida State fans are not happy with that, but that's the way it's going to be. My opinion. And after the Big Ten adds Notre Dame and Miami, they'll pick up. Now, it might take a couple years like at Kansas and Georgia Tech. After that,
Okay.
a few years down the road.
So you think down the road it'll be the Jayhawks and the Rambling Wreck of Georgia Tech?
Yes.
Possibility.
And
Now, did you see that Luke Fickell and PJ Fleck are going to be under the same roof the same day with the Big Ten Media Days, July 23rd.
Yeah, I caught that.
July 23rd, Fleck and Fickell are going to be with each other. Holy smokes!
I'm still upset that Minnesota, took their team picture on the field at Camp Randall.
Well,
What?
yeah. Well,
So, yeah.
all I know, guys and gals, all I know is remember the name Drake Lindsey. Redshirt freshman quarterback PJ Fleck yesterday.
He'll be remembering the name Ernest Willard.
PJ Fleck came out yesterday and said Drake Lindsey is the best young quarterback he has ever coached, he's ever seen. So look out, baby. That's all I'm saying. Go for propaganda. I'll stop right now, but remember the name Drake Lindsey.
Yeah, he'll be on the turf at what is it, Huntington Bank Stadium on either the last Saturday or the last Friday of the season, quite a bit due to the Packers' Badger defense.
Yeah, because there's going to be a lot of touchdown celebrations that will have Drake Lindsey on the turf as part of the celebration. You are correct, Evil Badger.
I'm talking about sacks.
Oh, okay. Got it. All right. Anything else, sir?
No, that's all.
All right, man. I appreciate
All
it,
right.
Evil Badger.
All right, bye.
King Spleen. Florida State fans are not mad, and people ought to stop projecting that on us. We are happy to be on the steps of leaving the ACC. We'd be happy anywhere else. Prefer the Big Ten, while others prefer the SEC.
Call from
Steel Austin.
Still Austin. Mr. Hewitt is on the line. The floor is yours. Go ahead, sir. Thanks for calling. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. How's it going?
I'm doing good. Hello, are you there? Looks like I lost everybody. Hold on. We're having troubles here. This will be interesting. This is going to be interesting. Did I lose everybody? Hold on. We lost the phone lines. Steel Austin, hold on a second. Here. Holy smokes. We got issues. Trying to figure this out. Mr. Austin, I did not hang up on you. We had a glitch that came right on through. Just a caller. Okay, everyone's still here. Now, let me see if I can... holy smokes. Steel Austin, give me a... Hold on. I don't know if this is going to work. Steel Austin, give me a call if you're still... 763-260-1333. I hope
Steele Austin.
This is Greg. Thanks for calling again. I did not do that. We had I don't know what the hell. Something happened where everything went out on me, and then YouTube came back. You did not come back. I do apologize, sir. The floor is yours.
No problem at all. Thanks, Greg. No, I thought that maybe it was on my end, but
No,
glad to
it
hear
was on my end. I knew. Yeah, I thought I was going to lose everybody there. Go ahead, sir. Woo!
Hey, hey, one thing that I guess at least from my understanding that isn't making sense is Rick had mentioned, why doesn't the Big Ten do this, or why doesn't the Big Ten do that, or beat SEC to the punch and that type of thing. But unless I'm misunderstanding, the Big Ten doesn't have pro rata in their contract.
Yeah.
And that means that if the Big Ten wanted to go and be preemptive and beat the SEC to the punch, they'd have to go and get Fox on board to pony up more money that they're not committed to, which that's going to be a tough sell, I would think, for a number of reasons. First and foremost, they're only given half a share to Oregon and Washington right now. So they can't, it's not like they can come in and say, hey, we're going to offer Florida State a full share, because there's no way they're going to bring in anybody at a full share unless Notre Dame comes along with them. While they're paying Oregon and Washington a half share. So I think for Florida State fans, although there's a lot of them that would love to be in the Big Ten, there's no way in this world they're going to pay $165 million to get out of the ACC only to take a half a share in the Big Ten when the SEC is going to offer them a full share right off the bat.
One of the advantages of SEC, ESPN. But you're right. That itself would hold back any going for Miami first type of scenario.
I think the way things stand right now, as much as the Big Ten would love to do what some might think they should do, I think they're in a situation where they just have to wait and react to whatever the SEC does, and that's just like you've already mentioned a number of times on your show that the SEC is really going to strike first, and they're in the catbird seat or however you put that. And that makes total sense as far as if you follow where the money's going and where it can go. I don't see another play. Unless the Big Ten was pursuing private capital still behind the scenes to do something, which I don't think that makes sense. I don't know why they would do that, but anyway.
There's wild cards out there. There's variables that we probably are not even. We're definitely not aware of. But even with that, if they, if we were just being real speculative and they were behind the scenes trying to work a private capital deal, they would still have to work something out for Oregon and Washington to make them feel whole. Before they go and offer the farm to, Florida State or somebody. That just wouldn't sit well. I just don't see how that could work. Yes. Yep. But. And yes, I agree. Absolutely. Beautiful phone call, man.
Thanks, Greg. And I guess I agree with you that let it all shake out and bring Notre Dame along, and that's the money shot right there. That gives them full, freight pro rata for whoever they want to bring in with Notre Dame. So anyway, good stuff.
All right, man.
Appreciate the show.
Love the call, and I apologize for the hang up on that.
Never. Always great to be on.
All right.
Beautiful. Good. Yeah.
And by the way, I guess maybe I did not have a clapping on for the Evil Badger. I apologize. Maybe I don't know what was going on. Evil Badger, thank you for your call as well. Great calls again from everybody. I appreciate it. I love the phone calls. What makes this show go. Kenneth and Maynard, thank you for the super chat. Thank you so much for helping us keep the lights on. If you notice a trend, Texas and Oklahoma to the Big 12, USC, UCLA left the pack, and Oregon and Washington, I think, also makes your comment. If that holds true, don't be shocked if UNC and Duke leave together first. The two schools that run the ACC kill the ACC. It could be. That could be what happens. We happen to believe it's UNC and Virginia. We did a live show a few weeks ago that we really believe that Virginia and North Carolina are joined at the hip when it comes to conference affiliation. Now, UNC Chapel Hill is still going to have to work their magic with the Board of Governors. Virginia is going to have to work their magic inside the state of Virginia with the Virginia Tech Hokies. There's going to be a lot of politics involved. There's a lot of variables involved in this, that everything could go pear-shaped on what we at PATC believe is going to happen. But having said all that, we were told about the continued relationship between Virginia and North Carolina, the longest Southern rivalry and all that stuff. But there's also something been going on between those two schools. And that they have been the first ones. They're the two that go with, they look to each other, they talk to each other about everything before they let the ACC know what's going on. I think that's about as far as I can go with it. But there has been a continued relationship, partnership between those two schools when it comes about discussing these topics. We think that is why we've got Virginia with North Carolina. But again, you could be right, Kenneth Maynard. If it is North Carolina and Duke, that would be absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much, Kenneth Maynard, for the super chat. I appreciate it so very much. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. I'm going to check real quick. Okay. All right. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. Clemson goes to the Big Ten of the SEC. We believe eventually they will get to the SEC. We believe that the SEC is going to transform their conference once again. They're going to strike, and they're going to strike big. They're going to satisfy all the players, their media partners, the SEC presidents. And we think it's going to be a Clemson, Florida State, Virginia, North Carolina. And if we are wrong, we'll take the big L here at Peek Around the Corner. No question about it. On a scale of 1 to 10, how bad does Fox want to have a footprint in Florida? I think they would absolutely love it. Now, Fox does have a footprint with UCF in the Big 12. Fox sponsored UCF into the Big 12. ESPN sponsored Cincinnati into the Big 12. They were the two proxies for ESPN and Fox. I think Fox would love it. Now, again, I often say that the Big Ten presidents want Miami. It's going to have to get paid for. Ultimately, it's going to have to get paid for. In Miami, coming on a loan, they're not going to get a full share if they're coming on a loan. If they're coming on with the Notre Dame, of course, they'll probably get a full share. But Miami is something that the Big Ten presidents want. But again, it's got to get paid for. And for the Big Ten, their top targets are North Carolina and Notre Dame. And it doesn't look like they're going to get North Carolina. And if they don't get North Carolina and SEC does this major transformation, we believe that that is when Notre Dame finally says, okay, we're in. And then that's going to cause another big disruption. And that's when Miami comes on in. That's what we believe. We did not take our, look, again, I hope I have demonstrated on this live show that disagreement is great for this. I don't expect, I mean, some people have agreed. A lot of people have disagreed in the chat room. I have, put it out there. I got no problem with the disagreements. If you are a man in the arena, when you do this stuff, you're going to have people disagreeing with you. You're going to have sources disagreeing with you. You're going to have sources disagreeing with each other.
Call from
Nitwit.
Nitwit, can you hold on for a moment, please?
Yes, sir.
I'm on my soapbox. I won't take too long. So we love disagreements here at Peek Around the Corner. I expect it. I respect it. I do not belittle. I do not try to diminish other people's arguments. They have great arguments. So again, we do not have any problem with disagreements. Once in a while, you will see me on X throw an elbow. Because once in a while, here at Peek Around the Corner, people will take a, and of course, it's part of doing this, right? But people take shots, not that they just disagree with you, but they try to, I got accused yesterday once again of chasing clicks, chasing views. Like, I spent a lot of this, I have spent a lot of time on this show bringing bad news to people. I lose subscribers left and right. But what we do on this show is we are authentic. I'm not doing this for clicks. I don't have pom-poms in my hand. I keep giving bad news. Sometimes I give good news. I was the one who said on June 15th last year that Florida State and Clemson were not the number one targets for the SEC and the Big Ten. And then 6 weeks later, Brett McMurphy and others reported that. We were honest. We were truthful. We were correct. That did not give me clicks. We lost a whole bunch of subscribers. I continue. Look, we bring it to you the way we think it's going to happen. So again, I got accused of that yesterday. I got accused of having a handler. And I'm the puppet, I guess. And the handler has put me out and they're burning me right now. I mean, from people who should know better. People who have watched this show. People who have been on this show. Accusing me of things that are just not, again, disagree. I'm all good with that, ladies and gentlemen. This is a college football YouTube channel. For God's sake, people are going to disagree with each other. If they didn't, this would be the worst, boringest show on earth. But you will find me once in a while throwing an elbow back if people are accusing this show of being something that it is absolutely not. It's authentic. I do not have a handler. I'm not I've been accused of being a Big Ten prop, even though Big Ten was pissed off at me many, many times, especially during the USC. So I've been accused of a lot of things. But this show is extremely authentic. I just want to put that out there. And I'm okay with the disagreements. Nitwit, the floor is yours. Thanks for your patience. Appreciate it.
Hey, Greg. Hey, thanks for commenting on that. And like I said, I think everybody's interested in this, and nobody asks why, because we love college football so much, and that's why we love your show.
Thank you.
Is because, do you understand what I mean? So,
I appreciate it.
When I make comments or I make things even on my Twitter account or my X account, it's because I feel passionate about college football, and I think we all come from that place. So I don't want to see something that I love destroyed, and sometimes that can be heated arguments, right, Greg? But calling in, I just wanted to call in and kind of comment on the topic. Although Penn State just going to be wrapping up their spring ball, I just want to let everybody know that some of these wide receivers aren't as bad as you think. So they got some good young freshmen. Got some good young freshmen. The guys that have transferred in, the Cephas and the guy from USC, look pretty good when I saw them. So I think it's pretty good. If you're out there rooting for Penn State, you should feel good about that. Wanted to call in about the comp. You know, I tell you what, that Notre Dame's a tough nut to crack. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like this is like peanuts with the football. We want Notre Dame in the Big Ten so bad, and every time, we think it's almost there, somebody pulls the football out from under us. It's like, oh my God, yeah. But I could see the market forces that you're talking about forcing them to make a different decision based on other sports, and I think that's that natural fit for their other sports if they want to remain. It's one thing to compete at the top level in your football, but you also want to compete in the top level in all your other sports. Right, Greg?
Yes.
So
yes.
You don't want to be stuck in the next American conference like Memphis with all your other sports. That's just not what's going to happen. I think the problem with the SEC that I see, and I think would cause some pause, is I've never really seen SEC in expansion kind of take schools that are not going to boost that conference or be on the level of that conference. Now, I know you bring up the student thing and expanding your student pool into North Carolina and Virginia. But I tell you what, I mean, look at the Big Ten. When they brought in those 4 brands, regardless of what you think of UCLA, those are 4 top brands that have brought a lot to the conference regarding football reputation. You know what I mean? Bringing your conference up to the level of, the SEC, or to be just there with the SEC. I know a lot of people say, oh, no, we're not even near the SEC, but bringing in those brands kind of helped. I don't see Virginia and North Carolina doing that for that conference. And I know, there's one thing on paper, and there's kind of 2 things that I've seen discussed with people that I talk about this with. There's paper that makes sense, and then there's relationships and fit, right? Mm-hmm. Do you understand what I mean?
Yep.
I mean, there's one thing you could go up and down on paper and oh, this is the greatest thing in the world. But then you'll have people man, and it's not the greatest thing in the world. So bringing in North Carolina and Virginia, it may look good on paper, but are you adding to your football brand, or are you diluting it? And I think that's something that the SEC is going to have to grapple with, because I know, remember, there's schools, right? I guarantee you Penn State does not want North Carolina and Virginia in the Big Ten, at least from a sports perspective, because that's our recruiting grounds, right? I'm not sure, how Florida's going to
why
feel.
did the Big Ten take Rutgers and Maryland? Why?
Well, I know that part. That part, at least from what I'm personally thought of, was the markets in New York and New Jersey,
it was the demographics. A lot of Big Ten alumni was in those states.
Right.
Plus, the Penn State wanted to happen. Jim Delaney was fearful of Penn State, wanting to lead the conference if we did not extend to a second region for the conference. What about the SEC's the SEC in Missouri? Again, added footprint.
Right.
So, and this is another. I mean, you bring up a great point, and it's why people that I've talked to, fortunate to talk to them, have brought up the growing belief that the SEC would take all four: North Carolina, Virginia, Clemson, and Florida State. That going into 9 conference games, that going into basically a new media agreement, scheduling agreement, that a Florida State and a Clemson would probably be needed to grease the skids for North Carolina and Virginia. And again,
yeah, I agree with that.
And again, the student apocalypse, it's going to hit harder. It's real. It's happening. They all know it's happening. And this hasn't happened for a few decades. So,
right. And I think you brought up a good point about the Big Ten, too. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't go Stanford, Notre Dame, Duke, and Miami, because that's just a better fit. You know what I'm saying? Like, why not take Duke if you want to boost your basketball brand?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a research institution. But I'm just saying, like, these things make sense. And I've been old enough, and you remember this, Greg, when the Big East and all these conferences started moving around. And, well, this school is going to go to the Big East, and there was plans to more schools joining the Big East. These are like tremors. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
In the marketplace of, it's very hard. Like, once you hit these tremors, I mean, you understand the market forces paying players, and why Texas and USC, you understand their decisions. Looking back, right?
Yes.
Hey, we're looking at this marketplace. Holy cow, we better do something about it, right?
Yeah.
The problem is, as you get further away from that realization, there's going to be people left out. You know, that train, like you said, the revenue thing. Like, I guarantee you, I don't think Penn State would take less revenue to bring somebody in a conference. A lot of schools, Minnesota probably won't do that either. Like, there's a lot of things to be worked out, and who's going to pay for it, and that's the question. And I just wanted to call in today and say, hey, you know what? This is great. Keep up the good work, Greg. Kind of report on my Penn State, Drew Aller, some of these receivers looking pretty good. And thanks for taking my call today, man.
All right, man. Appreciate it, Nitwit. Beautiful call, sir. Nitwit, Penn State receivers are just fine. Penn State is just fine at receiver. But they're probably going to go in the portal and pick somebody good up. Helmer and Hennison, I take it that the Big Ten not willing to pay Florida State, Miami, Notre Dame, given other schools' animosity to Florida State, Florida location at Stanford, poison the well with the Big Ten. I don't. The Big Ten would probably be willing to pay all that. Florida State, Miami, Notre Dame. But again, it's about Notre Dame pulling the trigger. And I think it's Florida State. I think it's the SEC making sure that Florida State will not be a part of I think it's, well, I've already answered this. I don't think it's like Big Ten not willing to pay for that. I mean, Notre Dame would pay for that. Then the inclusion of Notre Dame pays for anything that the Big Ten would want to do. So that it's not that the Big Ten, Notre Dame being part of your super chat takes care of Miami or whoever else. I just think we believe that the SEC is not going to allow Florida State to be a part of any Florida State-Miami blend. Can you imagine? Okay, can you imagine this scenario? Hold on, everybody. I want to hit Helmer Hennison's. Hold on here. Let me take care of something. But this is something that I wanted to. I love this super chat. Thank you, Helmer. I appreciate all your support on this channel. Thank you for the super chat, helping us keep the lights on. Let me clean up something here. But I wanna go through a scenario that would be just horrific for the SEC. And I don't think they're going to do this. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. Give me a moment. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the SEC working on a deal with North Carolina and Virginia? They get the deal done, and we wake up tomorrow. We're just pretending here. There's an announcement. Greg Sankey, North Carolina and Virginia, going to enter the SEC in 2026, July 1st. Ba, 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 ba. Can you imagine that happening? And now the ACC has been cracked, and North Carolina, Virginia found the ability to pay $165 million and everything. And there sits Notre Dame, knowing that North Carolina is going to leave the conference, knowing that something else is going to happen, and the SEC is leaving the door open for a possible Big Ten acquisition of a Notre Dame, Florida State, Miami. This is exactly what the people I talk to don't think would happen. They don't believe the SEC would leave that door open. Not for a second. This is why they think if the SEC is going to jump in and do something, they are going big. There's no way... if there's no way that the SEC is going to make it easy for Notre Dame to see that things are changing before them. That the SEC is going to take a North Carolina, Virginia, have Notre Dame question everything, and here comes the Big Ten with the opportunity to include Florida State, Miami, and Notre Dame. Don't think it's even possible. It is why we are, again, I'm giving you our strongly held opinion here from what we have heard. The SEC, when they come in, they are coming in big. They're coming in large. They're going to satisfy the SEC presidents. They're going to satisfy ESPN media partners. They are going to transform their conference, bigger footprint, more international students, Tallahassee, the whole ball of wax. So the Big Ten doesn't have this opportunity. And I understand. Okay, so I understand. Thank you so much, Helmer Henderson. Appreciate Super Chat again. So you're saying that the Big Ten should come in with Florida State, Miami, Notre Dame, full share right off the bat. You're going to have to give Oregon and Washington full share right off the bat. That would be a monster move by the Big Ten. But then you also are dealing with this Florida State, Notre Dame situation. Notre Dame not all that interested in Florida State. So, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole for today. But I understand what you're saying, Helmer Henderson. I appreciate the super chat. I guess that is one scenario that could upend what we believe here at PATC. But that kind of goes against, the Big Ten is going to be targeting North Carolina until they know for sure they can't get them. Anyways, I do appreciate it. I hopefully that answers all the questions. Let me see here. Again, if you're new to the channel or if you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to the channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. I appreciate everybody coming on in. Again, we believe that there is a monster transformation coming on in to the SEC. We think we don't think the SEC. We think the SEC is going to diversify their platforms. They're going to have a new media partner come on in. I think you're going to be seeing news about Netflix being some sort of having some sort of SEC programming. Not live football content, not live sports content, but behind the scenes content. I think the SEC is going to be looking differently 5 years from now than it does look right now. Part of this big transformation is North Carolina and Virginia, and we believe Clemson and Florida State. If all of that happens, we might be wrong, it might not happen, but if it happens, it's going to affect Notre Dame. It is. It's going to make it more difficult for them to continue on. Everything's changing around, but Notre Dame stays the same. We don't believe that can continue on. But again, a lot of smart people have said, Greg, you're wrong. Notre Dame is going to stay football independent. Please continue to put down your comments and thoughts. I read them all, even after the live show, the new comments that come on in. I appreciate it. Northwestern loses $790 million in federal research money. Yeah, that is happening to that's going to be an issue. Big issue. Big issue. Okay, I think we're going to close it down. We've been on the air for 2 hours and 8 minutes. I want to thank everybody. Incredible comments. Don't have time to read them all off, of course. Did the super chats. I appreciate the super chats. Helping us keep the lights on here. Preston from Greensboro. John Grove. Ryan Thomas. Ryan Willie. Daniel Gorby. Kenneth Maynard. Helmer Henderson. Thank you guys so very much. I appreciate the incredible phone calls, all the support that you have given us here throughout the almost 3 years. Well, 2 years and 8 months we've been on live, and it has been a great joy for me and the little general. I appreciate all you coming on in today on a Wednesday, lazy afternoon, April 9th. Again, continue to put down your comments. Let me know, give me DMs on X. Let me know what you want us to cover for the next live shows. We're going to be busy. We are going to be busy. There are things going on today in the Senate. On Capitol Hill, there are things going on today that we might have to report on. late tonight or early tomorrow morning. So buckle up, brace for impact, keep your head on a swivel. If you're part of the PATC family, and I hope you are, I hope you become one. If you're not one yet, subscribe to our channel, smash the like button if you do not like our content. If you do not like how the host presents the contest, smash the thumbs down button and let me know in the comment section how we can better serve you, the college football sickles. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.